Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Reservations. We're your hosts. I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Jeremy Blair.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Season finale.
It's pretty. It went pretty well, I think. Our first season doing YouTube.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we weren't getting a lot of the views that I was expecting, but you know what? It's all right. You know,
people aren't telling their friends.
You know, word of mouth, guys. But
I do want to say that before we get started, my mom might call.
Oh no!
Because she was taking a nap earlier, and I called her because I was going to stop by before I was here. And she was like, "I'll just call you later." And so I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to talk to her for a few seconds on mic. So
nice.
We're not going to pause or anything like that because it won't take that long. And so just heads up, mom's going to call probably.
Well, see, it's funny is I also called my mom earlier, but she didn't answer. So I was like, oh man, what if she calls me while we're in the middle of recording?
Yeah, she might.
Because the problem with that is it'll stop the camera.
Yeah, you got to send her a text and just say, "Don't call. I'll call you back."
Don't call me
ever again. Yeah.
No. Call me mom. Not right now though.
Not right now.
Please. I mean, this is in the future, so whatever. But yeah, man, it's hard to believe that it feels like we didn't start this season too long ago.
I don't know. Once you think that the first one was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that was a year ago, it feels like. But
yeah, it was. Holy shit. Well, I mean, probably almost a year ago, but yeah.
It was a long time, yeah.
Yeah, and that's our highest viewed episode, and that's the one that looks like shit.
Yeah, that's the one that looks the worst.
Yeah, if anyone has seen it, I'm sorry. It was a new format. I was like, I've got this old tiny tripod. This'll work. No, it looks like shit.
Yeah.
Now we've kind of finally hitting our stride with the green screen.
Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Ain't nothing gonna slow me down.
You're gonna get us copyrighted, even though we're not monetized.
Yeah, well, there it is.
I mean, shit. I mean, that happened when I had my own YouTube channel. Oh, when this YouTube channel was my experimental music YouTube channel. Yeah. One of my songs that I did got copyrighted because it sounded all slightly like someone else, but he was using the exact same beats that were in GarageBand. So it's like, bro, I'm not copying you. Yeah. I just happen to use those same beats.
Damn.
Anyways,
that's the music biz, though, you guys.
You either change or you die.
That's right. Because that's what we are. We're musicians. That's what we do here on this podcast. We talk music and how much we love being musicians.
The season finale, we're not talking about movies anymore. Now it's all music. Jesus.
I don't know how to play an instrument. So.
I only know how to play the violin. I tried to learn to play guitar, but I mean, I've wanted to take up drums recently.
Tocar la guitarra.
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm sorry. My grandparents are Mexican. Be nice to me.
No, I'm not. I'm laughing at just you.
Of that spot on pronunciation. I know.
Oh yeah, your girlfriend's gonna be mad at you.
No, she's not. Because she also has great pronunciation, but she can speak a lot more Spanish than I can. But I'm saying is I've earned it. I've earned it by living with my grandparents for so long.
Yes.
They're so sweet.
Anyways. Yes, so here we are, season finale, and what a way to end this season about a movie that pretty much at its core is don't go back to your childhood home.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's sort of the overall message.
Well, that's kind of part of it.
Don't go home.
I'll get into it more with the real meaning. And so if you listened to last week, which I know you didn't because our Hot Fuzz episode hasn't gotten a lot of traction, we are discussing the final movie in the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, The World's End, which, like I mentioned last week, it was the biggest gap between movies from 2007 to 2013.
Yeah, when they played I have the Blu-ray.
So do I.
Not for very much longer, but when I have the Blu-ray, and when I popped it in, it was showing the trailers. I was like, this movie's older than I thought it was.
Yeah,
because it was whatever.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, because it played fucking Two Guns.
Two Guns.
Two Guns with Denzel and Mark Wahlberg.
Yo, I saw that movie in the theater. It was awesome.
I've never seen that movie.
It was dope.
But anyway, but yeah, you know, and also this is the movie they consider Simon and Edgar consider this is the silliest of the three. Would you agree to that?
Yes.
See, I disagree.
You think Hot Fuzz is the silliest?
Yes, I think Hot Fuzz is the silliest. I think this one is the more serious of the three, especially towards the end.
Once you get to like the mushy gushy friendship stuff, yeah, it's pretty serious. But you know, I mean, Shaun of the Dead has that at the end of that one, and you know, kind of, sort of Hot Fuzz, but not as much. So I see why you think just out of just, you know, the Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg putting some heart into the stories. I do agree that the bookends have more of that than Hot Fuzz, but I would say that premise-wise, this is the silliest one.
So before we really get into the movie, so now you get to experience, I get to experience what you always experience for the movie I haven't seen.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the movie, Jeremy?
Okay, so at first, for some reason, I was expecting them to be aliens, like, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Sort of like, it was
like Invasion
more,
of the Body Snatchers kind of thing?
Yeah, it was more Stepford Wives than it was Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right?
Right.
So they ended up, you know, being like robot-ish, like Lego guys.
Yeah, and I love the detail that they're like little Ken dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked that. I liked that Simon Pegg is the fuck up in this one. He's the goofball. He's
which we'll talk about.
And in great shape, by the way, in this one.
Oh yeah.
He had lost some weight in this one. It was starting to get a little cut, which is dope because he's cut now.
And he's covered in tattoos now,
which is awesome. And so that was cool. And I listen. I'm a fan of trench coats.
Yeah.
And his jacket was dope. All right.
Yeah.
I liked his whole outfit, which is the exact same one he wore when he was, in the flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
With the t-shirt and everything. It's the same.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, but I want you to answer it once we've kind of gone through everything.
Okay.
Is now that you have officially seen all three movies, now which one is your favorite? Now, again, I want you to answer when we're done talking.
When we're done? Okay.
So let's kind of jump on into it. So the central theme of this movie really is a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Midlife crisis mixed with when you go home to your hometown where you grew up, has the town changed or have you changed? Mm-hmm. And those are kind of the two things that Edgar and Simon were kind of bouncing back and forth was, as Edgar put it, with is the town changing or did you change? It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
In this case, extreme case, which again, leading from Hot Fuzz, this theme of escalation, because this movie escalates very quickly.
Yeah.
The town has changed, but our friends, the friends in the movie have changed.
The friends have, is it Gary? Right?
Gary is the leader of Simon Pegg.
Gary has not changed, and that's sort of the problem, right?
Yes.
And I do like the every once in a while they'll bring up, oh, where did you find that? And he goes, what do you mean? It was in the tape player.
I put this on tape for you. Yeah, you did. Yeah, this is the tape. Where did you find it? It was in the tape player.
In the tape player. So he is so fixated with
the past,
right? And sort of trying to recapture that happiness that he had during this one night, right?
Right.
And so to do that, he has maintained everything from that night, basically, right? Everything is still the same.
Yep. His car, which pretty much just had everything replaced on it.
Yeah.
To his outfit that he wore.
His hair.
Yeah, everything.
They didn't even try to do the beard also. It's just the hair that he did. So even the sideburns are a different color than his hair because he obviously dyed it.
Black. And even the younger version of Gary, he dyed it because his eyebrows are lighter too. But maybe because I don't think they ever say if he did. But I guess it is implied that he dyes his hair because you can see it on Simon. But yeah, Gary is so He can't let go of the past.
No.
And that's another. This movie has many. I would say this is one of the first lessons the movie kind of teaches is, it's okay to let go of the past.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's might be a little scary, but it's okay to let go. But Gary, he doesn't want to let go.
I would have said the central theme of this film is AA doesn't work. Because in the very beginning, we get the voiceover from Simon Pegg, and then we get the, the flashbacks, right?
Right.
And he's telling this story at AA.
At AA. It's like the it's like the scene in Blades of Glory where Will Ferrell is at a sex education meeting or sex addiction meeting, and he's getting everyone riled up with his stories.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what this is.
Pretty much, because then he still drinks, so I don't know why he's they never explain why he's there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's spoiler alert. Because as we see with his bandages, he tried to kill himself.
Yeah.
So I think it was mandated. He had to attend AA.
That makes sense. Yeah, but he's not doing it right.
No. My man is like, I'm just going to the meeting so I can get the fuck out of here.
And Andy, right?
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost's character is actually sober. Does
yes.
it well for a while.
For good, I would say 30 minutes of the film. He's sober.
He's sobs.
Which is great because this is the first time that Simon and Nick have flipped the script.
Yeah.
Where now Nick Frost is the more responsible of the two. I mean, even in Shaun of the Dead, yes, Shaun was lazy, but he was more responsible than Ed. But now Nick is in the responsible part, now Simon he's the fuck up. He's the least responsible. And Nick Frost is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's fantastic.
Also, my man is also covered in tattoos now.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I would love to see Nick in more of that, the straight man role,
Yeah, well, I didn't like the movie that much, but in Fighting with My Family, he was good in that.
Wasn't that Florence Pugh?
Yeah, Florence Pugh. I hate her last name. She probably does too. Maybe it sounds better in the accent, but yeah, Florence Pugh's in that. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Other people.
Well, and I meant to mention this last week. It's funny you mentioned it because it triggered it. Because Stephen Merchant directed that. Stephen Merchant is in Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Staker, Mr. P.I. Staker.
Yes. Piss Taker.
I
love Stephen Merchant.
Shout out to our Jojo Rabbit episode.
So, also a little bit of a shout out for I guess we can go with casting. They got another James Bond in this one. They got Pierce Brosnan in this one.
Now they even say in the special features they have no idea how they got him.
Yeah.
Because I mean, not that Pierce is a busy man,
or has this sort of status of only doing
very serious roles,
or critically acclaimed films, or like
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Exactly. So we don't. So it's not like it's just you're surprised to see him.
Right, you're surprised. It's almost.
It was like with Timothy Dalton. You're surprised to see Timothy Dalton.
Essentially slumming it with these comedians.
Right. But in fact, if you think about it long enough, for more than 5 seconds, you're like, oh.
But it makes total sense.
No one is slumming anything because, if anything, they're like, I guess we'll give this part to
Pierce Brosnan,
former James Bond. Right.
Right. Which, of course, it's kind of funny. I had the thought when he comes on screen for the first time, I was like, it's so crazy. Because now he's about to be in a DC movie.
Is he?
He's going to be in Black Adam as Dr. Fate, which that would be pretty wild to see.
I mean, I'm out. I don't know if I'll say it, but
it's got. So
it almost wishes that I wish that either Roger Moore or George Lazenby or Sean Connery would have been in Shaun of the Dead just to make it all everyone had a James Bond in it. But
that would have been cool. But Pierce Brosnan is awesome. He plays the cool teacher that, is he the teacher or the principal? They don't really say.
I don't remember.
I would assume probably
A teacher. Yeah.
I would assume a teacher because, when in the flashbacks he's smoking with Gary, which also proves how, in the UK they are way more relaxed on things, which we're going to talk about like the rating too, because I want to mention that. But, he's just having a cigarette with Gary, a student.
Well, to be fair, for our Letterkenny fans out there, like Midland High where we went to school, the library used to be the smoking area because it was outside.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where students and teachers would smoke outside. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, see, because I'm a lame-o, I don't smoke.
Anymore.
I didn't smoke in high school. Yeah, anymore.
I don't either. It's kind of a bummer, like to quote John Mulaney, I don't look like I used to do anything. So it's
very good.
John Mulaney's back on coke. Anyway, so it was cool to get another James Bond. I thought that was neat. If only it had been in all three. I was,
especially in this one where the former James Bond is not really a villain per se, which we'll talk about the motivations of I guess our villains, the network, here in a second. But I think Pierce has really good comedic timing. I think he should be in more comedies. Not saying that he's not a great actor. He's a great actor, but I think he should be in more comedies. But anyway.
And, there's a lot of other familiar faces in this one.
From the past two movies. Yeah. And I finally got that guy's name. Who plays Filch, because he's back in this one.
Oh, yes, he is.
David Bradley.
Wow, that's a more simple name than I was not expecting.
And you can understand him in this movie.
Yes, he is not a mumbling...
farmhand.
Countryman.
With an army of guns to supply a small revolution.
And I liked him in this one. He was a little more goofy in this one.
Like the opposite of Filch.
Yeah, because he's sort of like, I don't know, just do what they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I like. So, Martin Freeman is back.
Martin Freeman.
In a more substantial role. And we get a little bit of one of the Andys when he's walking through the house, right? Yeah. And I just love it's a little out of price. Well, how much is it?
Well, he'll knock some off for you. How much is it? 1.2 million. Fuck off.
Yeah, that's so much money. But it's also to establish how successful his friends have become.
Yes, right? As we're Gary. Yes, so let's talk about the friend group.
All right, cool.
So Gary King, Simon Pegg, are as they call him, their fearless leader.
And he has a failure to launch, as it were. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey.
Ah!
Nice!
And Sarah Jessica Parker. Anyway.
Terry Bradshaw. Keep going.
So anyway, yes. So in our flashbacks, we learned that on the last day of school, that was supposed to be the beginning of Gary's life. And he just sort of plateaued. And he got stuck, as we've been talking about, stuck in this perpetual state of wanting to hold on to the past. Didn't, as I mentioned the spoiler, he, at some point in his life, I guess, tried to kill himself. Ends up in what I would assume is a psychiatric hospital having to do AA. It doesn't work, as Jeremy mentioned.
Or maybe it's just a therapy session, but I just assumed it was AA.
I mean, because everyone else looks like they're on something there.
Yeah,
so.
they do.
Because we have Bloody Mary in his therapy section.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gary, who, when we're being told this flashback, is very charismatic and is a fearless leader. And then you see him now, and he's just kind of...
a dud, yeah.
And then we move on to... I guess we'll just move on to Nick Frost, Andy, who, in the friend group, Gary and Andy were closer than everyone else. But a unfortunate accident kind of soiled their friendship, and now Andy has become a very successful corporate lawyer. Who doesn't have a door. He has a wind door.
Oh, my God.
And then we get Martin Freeman, O-Man, Oliver, who has become a very successful realtor. Mm-hmm. We get Steven, another one of the Andys from Hot Fuzz. I don't remember that actor's name.
That's okay, I don't
He, I guess, started his own architecture firm and then has become kind of like a private art. I guess people now just hire him to help
design buildings, things like that.
Be an architect.
Yeah.
And then we have Peter, who is kind of when they were kids, he was more of like the punching bag of the group. But they only hung out with him because he was rich.
A lot of you might remember him from Deadpool 2. He ran the orphanage.
Yeah, I love that guy. And he plays a great, like, subdued, beaten down man in this movie.
It's the neck. He doesn't have one. So it's like he's, you know.
Yes. But yeah, and so that's the friend group. So everyone else has moved on with their lives, but Gary just won't. And so what propels our movie forward is in our flashback, we learn that when they graduated high school, they decided to go on a pub crawl in their hometown.
Primary school? Go ahead.
Whatever. I mean, they were only probably 16, and our men were slinging back pints. It comes in pints? Pints. Like it was nothing. So there's Lord of the Rings reference. So there's 12 pubs in their hometown, and it's called the Golden Mile, and so they're going to hit everyone. I'm not going to lie. A part of me has always wanted to do a pub crawl, but then I'm like...
I'd get alcohol poisoning.
Our buddy Alex has. He did one with Emily a while back. It was like Harry Potter themed.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I probably would have stopped after like the third drink.
For sure.
But anyway. So in our flashback... They don't finish the Golden Mile. But they still had fun. They still had a great night. So Gary decides we're going to go back to our hometown, and this time we're going to finish it. Because, as we're going to learn, this is all Gary has.
Yeah.
And he feels he needs to complete this for his life to be whole.
In order to move on.
Yes.
Right? Because he has this very arbitrary thing holding him back, he feels that he can't, or he's using it as an excuse not to move forward in life.
Right. Unless he finishes this, I have to finish this. So he lies, lies to everyone to get them to agree to come home with him. And this begins our descent. Which is funny, our descent into escalation.
Yeah.
Because they descend home and then it just, as it goes on, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, things are weird.
No one's remembering them.
Right. And, you sort of feel like it's because they moved on too, right?
Right.
They're not going to fixate on...
this group of kids from 1990.
Yeah, like it was so long ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it would have been 23 years at that point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, of course they're not going to remember that, right? But then they start running into people more and more that should recognize them.
Right.
And that's weird.
Like Peter's old
bully. Yeah.
Who, Peter gives this very haunting monologue about how, I was kind of bullied a little bit in high school, but not to this extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the bully just looks right through him, and that cuts Peter to the bone.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then once Gary goes to the restroom and, starts talking to this kid about the Golden Mile and how they used to be, whatever, they get into an altercation, a Barney, if you will, because Barney rhymes with trouble. Barney Rubble rhymes with trouble. And, it's British Cockney slang, which is rhyming slang. It's impossible to... It's like a roadmap to get to what they mean most of the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, when he says, I had a Barney with someone in the... Yeah.
We had a Barney with 2 blanks in the beer garden.
So he gets into an altercation with this kid, and the kid turns out to be a robot of sorts.
Wait, they're not robots. But they're robots.
They're robots. So they're basically robots. Well, right, they're not slaves. Anyway.
Well, actually, robot is an old Czech word. Robotnik, that means slave. Anyway. Yes, so let's just put a pin right here. Yes, throughout the movie, once they realize, the town has been taken over by robots, they are constantly corrected. They're not robots.
They're not robots.
Robots mean slaves. They're not slaves. But they're essentially robots.
They're robots, and they're replacing
people.
Not everybody.
Yes, because they do run into a couple people that are still human.
That are still people.
David Bradley is one of them, which this is before the reveal. Yeah. They just think, he doesn't remember us either.
Yeah.
And then the Reverend Green, where Gary used to drive buy drugs off of.
I love their subtle.
Have you got any drugs?
Have you got any drugs?
I don't do that anymore, Gary.
Great actor, also. I love that.
Yeah, he's also in Shaun of the Dead. He's a zombie.
Oh, okay.
It's a blink and you'll miss him.
I see.
But yeah, he's a great actor.
Great episode of Black Mirror called White Bear, season 2. Anyway, doesn't matter. So they're robots, right? And which is going from 0 to 60 in pretty quick succession. Yeah. And then they have this gigantic fight in the bathroom with all
as we've been talking about throughout this series, is each movie Edgar flexes some kind of filmmaking technique each time. Well, in this one, learning from Scott Pilgrim how to choreograph a fight scene, because the fight scene is just perfectly choreographed.
Yeah, fight scene's pretty great.
And the camera is, we're getting the camera on everyone. We're seeing what's going on. And that's because of what Edgar had learned doing Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I see.
But yeah, this great fight scene where poor Steven gets his head pushed on the pee that's on the floor. And then Gary learns what WTF means.
Yeah. Right.
Because throughout the film, Martin Freeman, who I guess has decided he's not going to curse anymore, just says WTF. And Gary finally, at his wit's end, is like, what the fuck does WTF mean? And Pete just happens to be like, what the fuck? Oh, right.
That part made me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah, you texted me, and I was like, okay, good. He just barely got there.
He's watching the movie, yeah, and that's pretty funny. So we forgot to mention Rosamund Pike.
Yes.
Is also in the movie.
She plays Oliver's
sister.
I think younger sister. Yes, because she calls Oliver older brother. Yes, and she is. I love her. She's such a great actress. Apparently, Edgar Wright had her meet with one of his ex-girlfriends just to, because he thought like this ex-girlfriend would provide you with enough inspiration to know what I want, how Sam to be played. And he was like, she didn't tell me what they talked about, but this is, so he's like, I'm really worried about what they talked about.
That's funny.
But, Sam is kind of she's kind of the, I guess I would say guiding light of the group. She's trying to get everyone to understand, like, we need to leave. But as Nick Frost so eloquently puts it, Gary thinks that we should continue to do the Golden Mile because they know what we're doing, but they don't know that we know, and no one else has a better idea. So fuck it. Because at this point, Andy has started to drink. And so he's just kind of given up too.
Yeah. And, which, I mean, it's a decent idea because they've told everybody, Gary's told everybody that they're doing this thing, and so
I think if they hadn't had, I think if the scene in the bathroom hadn't escalated the way it did, they probably would have been able to finish the Golden Mile and get the fuck out without what happens in the movie.
Right.
But then,
right.
As we've learned from Pitch Meeting, but then the movie wouldn't have happened.
Right. The movie needs to happen, so...
Yeah. But yeah, so it starts just to escalate and escalate.
Now, I'm going to let you talk about the fence.
Right.
The fence, because if I'm being brutally honest with you, this is a safe space. I was drinking and I missed it, so...
You missed it?
Go
okay.
ahead.
So as we mentioned in the past 2 episodes, each movie has a scene with a garden fence. In Shaun of the Dead, Shaun tries to hop over and the fence, the panel of the fence falls over. In Hot Fuzz, Nicholas Angel does a bunch of somersaults over each one, and then Nick Frost barrels through them. Well, in this movie, after having a dope action sequence in the pub called the Beehive, Gary puts Sam in her car and tells her to leave. That he'll take care of the boys. You need to get out of town before this gets any worse. Which I don't know how could it gotten any worse than what it had just been. And so he's trying to shake the we'll call them what they call them in the movie, the blanks.
Yeah.
He's trying to shake them, and he sees a garden fence, and he starts to climb over it, and it's a much higher garden fence than the other two movies. And he jumps on it, and the entire fence just falls over. Like, the entire... Not just the panel.
I must have just, like, blinked and missed her.
Because he's like... See, he jumps up, and he grabs it, and it starts to fall, and he's like, oh, no! And then smack.
That's funny.
And like I said, each movie, it just escalates.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fresh each time, because even that scene is still hysterical.
He does a little bitty one. There's, like, a little bitty fence, like, in front of one of the pubs that he hops over and then falls over.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, was that it?
Nah. Yeah, you would have known. Yeah, you must have missed it. Yeah, because it's great. I
was writing something down.
But yeah, so let's circle back to when they're in the Beehive. This is what we kind of learn a little bit of the network's motivations, why they are replacing everyone.
And it's something very similar to the motivations of the Neighborhood Watch in Hot Fuzz, I think. It's just they're trying to create a nicer place to live.
Yes. Right? Yes. Yeah, with which of course we get more exposition towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, way later, yeah.
But, Pierce Brosnan is explaining how they're not here to, control us. They're not here to conquer us. They're here just to help us. They see potential in the human race, and they're just here to help. And this is when we learn that Oliver has been replaced.
Because he has his birthmark back.
He has his birthmark. And this is how they come up with the term blank, because no wear and tear. Because Oliver had a birthmark, which he had laser surgeryed off, and this one had it. And I love how Andy's the only one who figured that out.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, everyone starts to get a little sold on the idea. They're like, oh, well, okay, if they're not here to hurt us, then, maybe it's not a bad idea. And then Andy just wrecks Oliver's face. Yeah. And then that's what kind of snaps them out of it. Like, oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, so... I mean, because the network isn't. Edgar says they didn't want them to be villains, because they're not doing this maliciously. They think they are genuinely helping.
Yeah.
Trying to help the human race become more civil, as we learn at the end of the movie, that the fewer people they have to replace,
the better they're doing. And the main people they replace are people in political powers. That way their ideologies kind of spread naturally. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately for our heroes, their entire hometown has been replaced. Right.
And further adding to, has the town changed or have we changed?
Right.
But then you think, okay... Then we get to a part in the movie where we think, okay, our heroes are finally going to just bail. They're finally just going to get the hell out and go home. Mm-hmm. But Gary has decided that I'm not going home until I finish the Golden Mile.
Right.
And he is so determined that he literally abandons Andy and Steve, because poor Peter also gets replaced.
Yeah.
He abandons Stephen and Andy to continue the Golden Mile, which you're like, why are you doing that? And then you learn when he finally makes it to the World's End. That's the name of the movie.
That's the name of the movie. It's also a double meaning. Go ahead.
Yes. That, as we said, that this is all he has. This is all he feels like he needs to make him whole.
Right.
And
which of course is silly on the surface, but to him it's super important, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, because you would think it would be more important for one's safety just to not be replaced by a robot.
How bad could it be?
Well, I mean, the replicants are mulched and then recycled into the earth.
Yeah.
As fertilizer. So that's what they're doing to humans. Because it's kind of like the. I'm trying to think of another example because I don't want to mention this example and have you mad at me in our season finale, but this is the only example I can think of.
Well, all right.
There's a Doctor Who episode.
Oh my god.
Where far in the future, this company creates these glass bodies essentially, and they upload your conscience. Like they pluck you from the day you're supposed to die, and they upload your conscience into this glass body because memory is what makes you, right? And that's kind of like what they're doing here, because the blanks have certain memories from the person they replaced. Selective memory.
Yeah.
If someone else was saying that, me. No, I would have remembered.
No, I would have remembered that.
But not at the same time, like it's not them, it just has their memory,
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
I forgot the point I was trying to make.
Oh my god. That's all right.
Anyway.
So he's determined to finish the mile. They get to the world's end, and then this is where everything culminates. Like a horde of these blanks show up, and is trying to convince them what they're doing is right, what they're doing is okay.
But this comes into another lesson that Edgar wanted to do is so. The network wants to alleviate all human flaws and errors and things like that. That's why, they call them blanks. And Edgar says, well, but don't our flaws make us human?
Yeah.
So if you take that away, what are we? And Gary makes a really strong argument of, who the fuck are you to come down here and tell us that we're fuck-ups?
Yeah.
And they have a great argument with the, I'm assuming the leader of the network. It's just Bill Nye's disembodied voice.
Right.
And I love that that Gary the whole time is retorting back to him like, haven't you loved how technology has advanced in the last 20 years? No. Because my man still has a Nokia.
That's right.
And then, Andy gets involved. And then Steve shows up, which of course we thought Steve died. But Steve shows up, which, if you think about it, in our flashback, they pretty much, again, with Shaun of the Dead, they tell us how the movie's going to go.
Yeah.
When they start the Golden Mile when they were kids, everything was fine. And then the first one out of commission is O-Man, Oliver, which is what happens. Oliver's the first one to get replaced.
Yep.
And then they go to what they call the smokehouse, which is where they meet up after Gary puts Sam in a car. And then they lose Peter. And then the last three of them, Steve, Andy, and Gary, are the last three standing, essentially. And so that's pretty much how the movie plays out.
That's right.
And so they convinced the network, hey, you bit off a little bit more than you could chew with the Earth. You can leave now. And they do. But at a dire consequence.
Yeah.
When the network, left Earth and switched off their machine, it sent out like an EMP pulse and ruined all of the technology. Sorry, I thought I heard vibrating.
I thought I did too. But which is interesting because it turns this science fiction film into a post-apocalyptic film for like the last 5 minutes.
Yes. Right. Yes, because now everyone is, because now Andy is giving us narration about how, it kind of sent us back to the Dark Ages. The blanks woke up And some people have been accepting of the blanks. Other people have not been. Other people blame them. Very kind of Mad Max.
Yeah, it is kind of Mad Max. And I like the... I don't know what it is with, obviously I'm a little more sensitive to this. People with glasses in post-apocalyptic movies always seem to break them.
Yeah.
And so his are two different glasses taped together. And I take very much offense to that because I've had these frames for years and years and years. And I just switch out the lenses and they're fine. Not everyone with glasses will break them in a post-apocalyptic scenario.
Well, you know who you could thank for that? Burgess Meredith in The Twilight Zone.
That's true. That's true.
He had all the time.
There was time now.
I apologize if everyone can hear that. I guess there's someone outside agitating my dog.
It's your stupid dog.
But anyway, so now the world has reverted. And did you catch the cornetto in this movie?
I did. Can I say it's the laziest one?
Yeah, because the first time I'd ever seen the movie, I was like, all right, where is it? Where's it going to show up? Where is it going to show up? And I was like, oh. It is a little disappointing because, so for this one, it's the mint chocolate chip. Green, because it's a sci-fi. But it's just a wrapper. A wrapper that Andy sees and is like, because early in the film, he talks about how he and his wife tried to go organic. Problem is, I like eating shit. And then now with how the world has become now, they have to go organic. And he says that there's very little processed foods I actually miss. And then the wrapper hits and he's like, and then it blows away.
It was the laziest one. I was also looking for it.
But the more shocking is how now that the world has reverted, is how Gary is handling it. Which is, he is now sober, or it's implied that he is sober, and he linked up with the younger versions of his friends.
The blanks
of his friends, and I guess they don't tell us what they're doing, they're just on a quest.
Yeah, and so he, ironically, doesn't have to grow up, right?
Yeah.
It's you think that this film is going to... after the events of the film have taken place, he's going to get his act together, he's going to grow up, he's going to, start being a contributing member of society. And it turns out, no.
He doesn't have to be.
He doesn't have to.
Because society has crumbled, so he doesn't have to be.
And he gets to be with the friends he remembers being the most happy with.
Right. Yes. The film doesn't necessarily have a very cathartic ending. The most you're proud of is that, like I said, it is implied that now Gary is sober. Because when they walk into the bar of the Rising Sun,
oh my God,
he asks for 5 waters, which
why the blanks need water, I don't know.
I guess I assume that they probably have internal organs too. Maybe I don't know. Because they were eating and drinking throughout.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's thinking too much into it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
And that's the movie. It's funny. The writing this time is so honed in. The jokes are great, especially with when he recruits Oliver. He's like, I'm here to tell you that Gary's back on the horse. And, to the person who's known him the longest is like, oh no, he's doing drugs again. And he's like, you're back on the horse. Like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm back on the bicycle. He's like, what's bicycle short for? Or what's bike short for? Bicycle. I'm confused. Don't be. And it's just this really great back and forth. And it's I think taking a break for Edgar to do Scott Pilgrim really helped his writing, because I believe he wrote Scott Pilgrim also.
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie.
It's good. I think you'd like it.
No.
It's got a bunch of...
I don't think I would.
It's got Chris Evans right before he did Captain America.
Yeah.
And he's a total douchebag.
Yeah, I knew that.
And it's got Brie Larson in it.
And Mary Elizabeth Winstead also, right? And,
Bro, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Kieran Culkin. Anyway, we're not talking about that movie.
Thank God.
But yeah, I feel like doing that gave him some time to really hone in on the jokes for him and Simon, especially considering that this film was written, I think, before they did Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, that's interesting.
Originally, it was called Crawl, mainly just about friends doing a pub crawl.
Yeah.
And then Edgar luckily sat on it, and then I guess as they got older, they're like, you know what if a bunch of guys experiencing a midlife crisis went back to their hometown, but the hometown was taken over by aliens. It's
yeah.
I'm really glad that they decided to sit on it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like, I would say between the three, this one, even though I do think it's the more serious, it does have more jokes in it. Mm-hmm. Like with Gary's whole thing about King Arthur, he would have a mead. Because, he's like, do you think he walked up to the bar and was like, hello, could I have water, please? Well, no, Gary, there wasn't running water in Arthurian times. Exactly. It's... I really think the jokes are just on point for this movie.
For this one?
Compared to the other two movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So Jeremy, answer my question now. Now finally seeing all three.
Okay.
Which one is your favorite?
Shaun of the Dead.
I feel like I had a suspicion you were still going to say.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead is still... Now, my least favorite would be Hot Fuzz.
Okay. So it would be Shaun of the Dead, this one,
and then Hot Fuzz. Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you credit on that one
thanks.
Because a lot of people felt like Hot Fuzz wasn't as good as Shaun of the Dead, but then this one kind of...
And you were right about the sort of the aesthetic and the style and sort of the tricks he would do in Shaun of the Dead and in Hot Fuzz. He really doesn't do this time.
Yes.
Right. There's a few hip hop montages, but that's about it.
Yeah. Edgar really tones down his own style, which I love. I love it when a director can pinpoint, like, yeah, that's my style. I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna trip you up.
Yeah.
The most Edgar Wright we get is once they kind of realize everything that's going on, and they have them, and we were talking about it off mic, they have them walking in sync to the Doors' Soul Kitchen.
Yeah.
To that organ, the do, and they're just like all on edge, just trying to look normal.
Well, it's Alabama whiskey, but that's fine. It's not a big deal.
Oh, no, yes, it's Alabama. My bad.
Yeah.
Soul Kitchen is something else. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's still their song, but it's...
Yeah, I know. No, yeah.
Might even be the same album.
It is the same album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their debut. It's their debut
Self-titled.
album. Yeah, self-titled debut.
Anyway, but yeah, that's I would say probably one of the most Edgar Wright scenes of the whole movie.
I agree. And then, then it doesn't really get that way again, right? It's sort of the...
Yeah, I think that whole sequence of Alabama whiskey playing is very Edgar Wright. Like when they go to the pub and they order beers and they all chug them and they're like, drinking beers, pubs, shall we? And they all bump into each other. Which, I don't know if you watched the special features, but
no.
I think they did train. I think certain scenes they did legitimately down those beers. I think in that scene it was CGI.
Oh.
Because I think they needed to finish them very quickly. But there's a part in the special features where Eddie Marston, Peter, and I don't remember the actor who plays Steven, are actually drinking, I think it's apple juice, but they're chugging out of a pint.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're like going ham.
Going at it.
Yeah, man.
I did watch the gag reel. That's what I watched. That was pretty good.
Okay, so I just want to talk about it briefly because we did kind of talk about it a little bit off mic, is the rating.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I mentioned it during Shaun of the Dead, or maybe just I was talking about you.
You talked about it during Shaun of the
Dead. Is this film was allowed 5 uses of the word cunt.
Getting some phone calls on that one.
Oh, yeah. But it's because in the UK, I'm not going to say it again, but that word is very serious. Like it's worse than fuck to them. That's worse than fuck. And so they had to write a letter to the BCCA, which is kind of like our MPAA, which are run by monsters.
Yep.
Just asking, like, we want to use this in the film. How many times can we say it to maintain, which I guess would be their PG-13, a 15 certificate? And according to Simon Pegg, that they wrote them back a very great letter about, hey, well, if it's being used as a derogatory term, you can only say it once. But if it's being lighthearted, which from what I think they sent them a copy of the script too. This seems like this movie is very lighthearted. You can say it 5 times and maintain that 15 certificate.
Yeah.
And they were like, perfect, we're going to take that.
And use all 5.
And they do. I have done it and they have used all 5. But if you do sit and you count every time they say it, yes, it's exactly 5 times. The last time they say it is when they tell the network that they can fuck off back to Legoland.
Because they look like Legos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it would rip off the head. There's that little stub there.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, yeah, just like a Ken doll or a G.I. Joe, if you pop the head off, they have the little nub that holds the plastic in place, which is so funny.
Yeah.
I genuinely loved that the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, yeah, they're like little action figures.
Yeah.
Human-sized action figures.
That's right.
That are filled with blue stuff.
Blue stuff.
I love that that's how they keep saying it. Like, they're filled with blue stuff. Because we have blood on our hands. It's more like ink. We have ink on our hands. Which it is. It is like ink.
Ink, yeah.
But yeah, man. So I guess now it's time to kind of wrap up the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Simon says it in the special features of this film is that, Shaun of the Dead was not meant to be a parody. They just genuinely wanted to make a zombie movie that had comedy. Hot Fuzz was never meant to be a parody of action films. They love action films, and how none of them are from America. They had to make it in the UK, and in order to make it properly, they had to add comedy to it. And the same with this one. It's a sci-fi film with comedy.
Yeah, I think, once you get past Hot Fuzz, it's almost like, hey, we can do a third one. Let's do this one, and because we could thread them together,
Right.
Right. It's, after the second one, then it becomes on purpose, I think, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that it's, because I don't think they really had a plan to do a trilogy until after Hot Fuzz, and they're like, why don't we just do a third one and make this a trilogy, and have Cornetto ice cream in every single movie. Because I want to say when they did Hot Fuzz, they just kind of meant it as like a wink, like...
Yeah.
Because in Shaun of the Dead, it's very blatantly obvious that Ed is eating the Cornetto ice cream because Shaun asks him,
right,
do anything from the shop? Cornetto. Which apparently is a reference to Edgar Wright when he was younger and had flatmates. When they would be hungover, they would eat Cornetto ice cream.
That's fine.
But so I think in Hot Fuzz it was meant to be more of a wink, like, hey, like to all the fans out there who saw Shaun of the Dead.
Remember Shaun of the Dead?
And then it was like,
okay, well now
we got to do a third one and we have to include Cornetto.
Right.
Which I think is why it was the more lazy. I think they're like, well, we have to find some way to...
I mean, you could argue that it's because, it's the downfall of society that,
True.
I would have put it somewhere else maybe, but I think the fact that he had put it at the very end and very briefly...
And it's just a wrapper.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's something to that, but, for me, I would consider using it for... I guess I would have used it in a more substantial way, I guess, or had someone eat it.
Yeah, especially because in Shaun of the Dead and in Hot Fuzz, we see them eat the Cornetto.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love the trilogy. That's why I wanted to save it. I just remembered an oops, I forgot just real quick. Also, the other thing of the, I guess, lesson of The World's End is the term of starbucking.
Starbucking.
Which is making everything a chain, because the first 2 pubs they go to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Which is also implying that something else is going
Something's
on.
up. Yeah.
And so what I was telling you off mic is if we hadn't chosen this as the series, this episode would have been called "Quit Starbucking Us."
Yeah.
But now
it's this.
I couldn't just pick out like, oh, we're going to talk about The World's End. We had to talk about Shaun and Hot Fuzz as well. So out of the 3 end of season series I've chosen, this being Right, let's say 80s month. 3. Which one have you liked so far? 80s month, the Mel Brooks-a-thon, or...
I guess Mel Brooks better, because I love Mel Brooks so much. And you know, with 80s month, as we've stated before, at least I have, that it was just so difficult to talk about these things, you know, in a very short amount of time, and you know, in succession, going back and forth like that.
Yeah, especially because you know, in season 1 we had no idea what the hell we were doing.
No, it just, you know, this was sort of the, you know, if you want to say, you know, it was our Shaun of the Dead, because it was, you know, we had set a precedent that we didn't know we would later replicate, right?
Yes, this is true, because here we are 5 seasons in, and because I think that was your idea. To each season we were going to end it with a series.
Yeah.
But rather than having a broad topic, we were going to kind of hone in, because with season 2 we had
keeping it with a theme, but making sure each episode was one movie.
Correct. Yeah. So season 2 we had stage to screen, which
I may do again later.
Raised the bar. And then I did our Mel Brooks-a-thon in season 3, and then our Martin Scorsese.
Yeah. De Niro and Pesci.
Yeah. In season 4. And now, I guess, well, I was going to say our Edgar Wright, but this actually has a name, the Cornetto Trilogy.
Right.
Who knows? I may start saving my end of series for movies that are 3 parts.
3 or 4 parts, yeah. Because, I mean, I might do another stage to screen if I, you know, like a part 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
If I want to do other adaptations.
Redux.
Yeah, Redux. Because, you know, we didn't do Killer Joe. We didn't do August Osage County, you know.
Which I've been really wanting to see that one, too.
No, there's a bunch we could do.
But yeah. So, Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am.
Wrap up season 5. Yeah, man. I'm glad you liked it.
I did.
I was a little worried. I was like, man, what if he doesn't like it?
There's, you know... Well, I watched them again. I'll watch Shaun of the Dead again.
Well, for sure.
I may not watch Hot Fuzz again.
That's fine.
And Wilton, maybe. It depends. But
I've only seen... I think out of the most of the 3, I've seen Shaun of the Dead the most.
Right.
I think The World's End I've seen the second most, and Hot Fuzz. I mean, I do enjoy Hot Fuzz, but I think Hot Fuzz I've seen the least.
Well, you're stuck with all 3 because they're all in a pack for you. Yeah. Me, they're all individual, so I can just toss them if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Got to get that on that 4K though.
No, I don't.
I'm going to. That's what I'm saying.
You know, this is some stupid collector bullshit. So sorry, but I have the Shaun of the Dead on a Mondo Steelbook. And that one's pretty cool. It's got the slipcover on it and stuff, so that's dope. The other 2 were just the generic Universal releases on Blu-ray, so I'll just ditch those probably.
Yeah.
But I got to keep Shaun of the Dead regardless, just because, you know, later it's probably going to be very expensive to
for sure
replace it if I ever wanted to get it again.
100%.
So that will probably retain its value, but and that's just stupid collector bullshit. But
yeah, man. Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
But I'm glad we did it. I'm a huge Simon Pegg fan, and I'm a big Edgar Wright fan. So it was dope to do a deep dive on these.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for our next episode. You know what I mean? Like our bonus.
Yeah. So in case anyone didn't missed it on our No Country for Old Men episode, we are going to be doing a bonus episode this season. We usually save bonus episodes for specific reasons, and I'm really excited to talk about this one. I'm not going to give you any teasers for it because
I already did.
We already did in our No Country for Old Men.
So go listen to that again.
And then circle back.
My friends have said that's one of the best ones we've done so far.
Yeah,
it's
that one.
No Country for Old Men.
And we were under the gun because we really had to get that episode out.
Yeah.
And I had to really get that episode out. So
pretty quickly. So people really like that one. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. People really like that one.
Check it out on wherever you get your podcast. It's also on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed season 5. We also hope you enjoyed our Blood and Ice Cream trilogy. Look out for the bonus episode. That'll probably be out next week. And we will see you guys in season 6.